Hello and welcome, I'm Andy Evanson and this is my channel. If you're here, then you want to do the same as me and you want to reduce, reuse and recycle. I am a coffee lover. That was until I started researching the topic for this video. I mean, I still love coffee, but what I buy, how I make it and what I do with the waste is going to have to change. Why? Well, you will soon find out, my coffee loving friends, as this is a little bit of a rabbit hole of a topic. The question I was looking to answer before starting this was, what is the most sustainable way to drink coffee? Before we get deep into this topic though, let me know in the comments at any point if you found any particular brands, any methods of making coffee more sustainable that I may have missed during this video. Now, to answer this question and arm yourselves with as much knowledge as I've been able to gather, I'm going to need to break it down into three core parts. The growing of the coffee plants and the extraction. Then we need to look at the processing, including roasting, packaging and transportation of the coffee. Then we have the third part, which is making the coffee drink, the finished product. Each has its own trials and tribulations of sustainability. So let's begin with the very first part, which is growing the coffee plants. Originally, coffee plants and the farming of them, before demand went sky high for coffee, used to be under shaded canopies that meant that they had a natural immunity to more pests. They thrived on minerals from the soil on which rotting plants and leaves would fall, and they supplied habitats for specific and rare types of birds and other animals. However, due to the demand of coffee over the last 10 to 15 years, myself included, but especially Western civilization, there has been an increasingly large shift towards what is known as sun-grown coffee. These are more akin to what we commonly know as farms. They are not protected by a natural canopy and therefore they need pesticides, they need fertilizers, and they deplete the soil on which they grow, and as a result there isn't a canopy that is a suitable habitat for birds and wildlife. But farmers have been positively encouraged to replace their old and supposedly inefficient farming methods with sun cultivation because it yields more crop, and as a consequence 2.5 million acres of forest in Central America alone have been cleared to make way for coffee farming. This link between coffee growing and deforestation was recently highlighted by the WWF, who pointed out the fact that 37 of the 50 countries in the world with the highest deforestation rates are also coffee producers. Many of us may not see the effects of shade-grown coffee versus conventionally grown coffee. However, the forests that are being lost provide shelter for thousands of migratory birds. We're talking about, our backyard friends, the ones that we see every single day. Also, deforestation poses a serious risk to landowners in this and other countries because of flood control. Forests help prevent excessive rain runoff and stave off millions of dollars in damage. These forests also contain 45% of the life on Earth. They help keep greenhouse gases at a healthy level, recycling 20% of the world's carbon dioxide. They provide food for humans and animals and have provided us with countless health benefits. And that's just what we know about rainforests. So much more we don't know. So, how can you know if your coffee is from shade-grown coffee farms? Well, it's actually quite hard to know, but a good starting point is to look for coffee that is certified by the Rainforest Alliance. The Rainforest Alliance has no guaranteed price for coffee growers, unlike the Fair Trade certification. Instead, the organisation aims to conserve biodiversity and ensure sustainable livelihoods by transforming land use practices, business practices and consumer behaviour. To be certified, growers need to achieve standards set by the Sustainable Agricultural Network, also known as SAN, and adhere to a set of 10 guiding principles. The SAN, for instance, forbids deforestation, and no farm is certified if there is evidence of deforestation after 2005. Those qualifying for the certification embark on a program of reforestation, developing both shade-grown coffee and foresting non-productive areas of their farms. Now, you're nearly halfway through, which means you are interested in the content that I'm making right now. Help support my search for a more sustainable lifestyle and hit that subscribe button. I want to know I'm having a positive impact on your day-to-day lives, and through growing this community, I can. Next, we have one of the biggest areas for concern in the sustainability of coffee, the processing. Once the coffee is harvested by manual labour, The coffee cherries, which is the fruit that actually bears the bean, needs to be processed to extract the green beans before they are then roasted to get the dark brown coffee beans that we all associate with coffee. The harvested cherries are dried using a few different methods. The natural method is a flavouring enhancing process, involves drying the whole cherries in sunshine over several weeks. Another method involves the skin and outer flesh being removed from the cherries before they are fermented in water for up to 2 days. This is known as the washed method, and a third method is to dry the cherries artificially with drying equipment that uses energy to dry the cherries quicker. Now, it takes about 36 gallons of water to process enough beans for 1 cup of coffee, and coffee is often grown in countries where there is a water shortage. Water pollution is a major problem of the wet processing phase, as used water from the fermenting process is often dumped back into rivers. The washed beans are usually then packaged up and shipped to roasting companies or houses, as the beans lose their freshness quickly once roasted. The transportation of those packaged green beans is done by overseas shipping for the majority. This is a part of the chain which we don't really have much control over if we want our cup of Morning Joe. Roasting can take place at a processing company or at a coffee house. Roasters usually blend coffee of different origin and type together to create a blend. Coffee beans are heated between 370 degrees and 540 degrees for 8 to 15 minutes, depending on the degree of roast required. The longer the coffee is roasted, the darker it becomes. The heating process creates the release of coffee oil, which is the essence of coffee. Finally, the coffee is grinded, packaged, branded, and sold to retailers. Coffee roasting is the largest contributor to reduced air quality out of all the processes, because coffee roasting operations emit air pollutants such as particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, organic acids, and natural gas combustion byproducts. Because roasters are typically natural gas-fired, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide emissions result from the fuel combustion. So what can we do about the processing phase of coffee to drink more sustainable coffee? Well, one obvious area that we can improve is to drive demand for naturally dried cherries. That will use less energy and produce less CO2 in the process. The transportation of the beans we don't really have much control over, but the roasting we do. We can opt for a roasting house that we know uses more energy efficient roasting methods and or support local roasters who do. Okay, so the last part of making our cuppa more sustainable is the making of the drink. We can obviously choose to grind the beans ourselves, and using manual grinders, this would take away any energy use, but if you want an electric grinder, then finding one with a lower wattage would use less energy. When it comes to the way we brew, there are several factors to consider. One of the top offenders would be drip machines. They seem to use a lot of energy and they seem to use it for a lot of time. They also use disposable filters. Espresso machines may use more energy per volume because it heats the water hotter and uses a pump. The coffee also must be ground finer, but it's so much more concentrated that it might actually balance out the energy consumption. They also don't have any waste products, so that is another plus there. The French press uses the least amount of energy, depending on how hot you heat the water, and as you only have to heat the water up once, that means you can use the amount that you need. The coffee is supposed to be coarsely ground, which can also save trace amounts of energy. It has no waste products, and the kettle that you use, an electric kettle that you use to heat the water, heats the right amount of water for the press. So with no waste products and maximum efficiency, the French press is often considered the best way to go. Now, a new one to me is cold brewing coffee, which could significantly cut down your energy usage. Devices such as the toddy or even coffee grounds mixed with water in a bottle, you can substitute energy with time. With traditional coffee, you use heat to quickly brew your coffee, whereas with cold brew, you have to wait 12 to 24 hours to enjoy your drink, because you have to let it brew overnight at room temperature or in a refrigerator. Now, the worst offender has to go to single-serve coffee makers such as the Keurig line or the Nespresso. They are certainly convenient, but those pods are clogging up our landfills around the world. The capsules are made from a combination of plastic, aluminium and paper, and whilst you can recycle all those parts individually, you cannot recycle it as an individual pod that gets thrown in the trash. Buying reusable coffee pods is an easy way to up your sustainability when using single-serve coffee makers, and better still, you can now get compostable coffee pods for them as well. So any pods you do use can go straight in the composting bin and you can use it as fertilizer for your crops. Excellent. Now, it goes without saying, if you're going to buy store-bought coffee, then you need to be using a reusable cup. And the reason why is paper cups are not actually recyclable. They have a coating of a polyethylene inside to stop any leaks. That means that it can't go in the recycling bin because you cannot take that polyethylene off. So using a recyclable cup is another way that you can make sure that you reduce the waste from drinking coffee. Now, that is a deep dive into sustainability in coffee from the research that I've gathered. And as I said at the beginning, if you have anything that you found or any way that you drink coffee that is more sustainable, write it in the comments below so that we know. And if you like this video, then you know what to do. Give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.